Welcome. As everyone's tuning in, welcome to another round of coffee and donuts. We're going to be jumping in. Let me pull everyone up here. Can everyone hear me all right? All right. Looking good. Okay. So I have some pre-submitted questions I'm going to go over first. While I'm doing that, anyone that is here live, if you have any questions that you want to submit or that you have, make sure you either raise your hand or type them in the chat. Let me open up the chat. There we go. All right. So I have quite a few, but I will get to as many as I can, and then I want to make sure that I leave time for your questions. So if you do have questions, as I said, either raise your hand or start typing them in the chat so I know how much time to reserve. First question. I've applied to 3 departments. Academy is in January. They're hiring by mid-November for my number one. They're the last department to begin the process. If I get a final offer from number two or three before number one offers, do I accept? Can I pull out later if number one offers? Do I stall out to give number one some time? This is a good one, right? So specifically for this one, if you are if you're trying to if you're trying to wait in order to get your number one department to hire you, it's probably not going to work out. I have had it work out, and I've actually leveraged other departments' offers to get a number one department to make a faster final offer with some candidates. The big thing here would be how far, right? How far is the gap between the offer being made by department number two or three and then the number one department. So if you're in the background phase and you still have psych, poly, and medical, right? And this one department has made you a final offer, you're not going to make it. It's just not going to happen. That department and those phases take too long to complete. And even if you try to tell them, they're going to tell you two options. If you really want us, you can not accept that offer and withdraw from that department, but we're not going to guarantee you a position until we do our due diligence. And that's most likely what's going to happen there. Number two option is they give you a week, right? They'll say, hey, we're glad to make you this final offer. If you're sitting in front of, say, the chief or a sheriff, and you're doing your final interview and they say, hey, okay, we're willing to make you an offer right now. Doesn't happen all the time, very rare, but if it does, then you can kind of almost guarantee you're going to have to make a choice right there on the spot. If they say, hey, we're willing to make you an offer right now, all you have to do is sign this offer of employment. You sign it. Now, I have personally worked with a fellow officer that took a position with our agency. Really, our agency was their number two agency. However, it was maybe, I don't know, maybe a month into their hiring, their number one agency made them an offer. They winded up quitting with our department and then going and accepting that other offer. That burned a lot of bridges, right? Now, if you never plan on working with that department or applying to them ever again or ever lateraling, or you don't think you're ever going to try to do that with the department, yeah, you can burn that bridge. It's your choice, it's your life, it's your career. But at the end of the day, you really want to mitigate any type of any type of burn bridges, right? That's just the best way to explain it. I There's a reason why we have you identify and do the department audit on your top 3 departments is because if any one of them makes you an offer, you'd be glad to accept it and be happy to work with them. Yes, you can have a wish list, but I'd accept the first offer that you get because it's much easier to lateral later on. And it gives you a different perspective. You can get multiple perspectives working with one department and doing things, by their policies and working with another department doing things by their policies. It's a good way to stay rounded and it's a good way to refresh yourself on a lot of things. So I would accept the first offer that is made. That's that one. Um, all right, let's see what we have here. I just learned today that my department I'm applying to does not do polygraphs. In fact, they are against them. The sheriff is not a fan of them at all. But there is a chief's interview in that and whatnot. Okay. I'll be a deputy, not all city cops. Sorry, this is poorly written. But I need advice on my current job reference. If you could please help me out with something, I desperately need advice on how to put my current job down as a reference while still employed there. This is a bit convoluted. Excuse me. Yeah, this is a bit convoluted, the questions asked, but ultimately I'm going to answer the question is how do I list my current job as a reference? And I'm assuming there's some type of concern about whether or not they will be disgruntled, right? And there's that possibility, right? There's that possibility that they may be disgruntled when it comes to you listing. One thing that departments do allow, and some departments, not all, right? This isn't a blank statement. But one thing that they do allow is they do allow you to at least make a request. Hey, please don't contact my current employer until, you're sure and positive that you're moving forward with me. That is a reasonable request. You can make that request. They don't have to follow it, but I've seen most departments respect that request for the sheer fact that it looks bad for an employee if an employer finds out that they are looking at other employment, right? It's one of those things where you don't want to you don't want to hurt someone, financially when you might not pick them up. So if you start the background process and your first thing to do in the background is to send out a reference check letter to all references, including employer references, that's a bad day, right? Especially if it's their current one or you're reaching out to their direct supervisor and you want to talk to them. Yeah, that's a bad day. It does happen though. So for you, I would make that request. I would say, hey, could you please hold off on contacting this this organization or my employer until you are reasonably sure that you are considering me as a viable candidate and moving forward. Once again, not every department does it, but I think it's a good option. And a lot of departments do respect that. So that's the way I would handle that. Other than that, if you're looking for information on how to, this wouldn't apply to your current position though, so I don't think this is where the question was. But if you're looking for information how to get past, dates and things like that for past employment, Social Security Administration, you create your free account. Don't lose the password because you're going to need it later on in life when you retire. But yeah, you can log on, create a Social Security Administration account, and you're going to be able to see all of your different official work histories, and it should give you the dates and the organizations. Okay. All right. I'll come to that question in the comments here in a second. I had a buddy get a speeding ticket by the agency he was on his way to do an interview for. That is about as bad as it gets. You getting any type of moving violation while applying to a department is pretty much a knife in the chest, right? If you're trying to show, hey, I'm a mature, dedicated and responsible adult applying for law enforcement, which is all of those kind of personality traits, you definitely want to make sure you stay out of trouble. You don't want to have any negative contacts with law enforcement. One, because you have to report them on. Two, they're going to know. But three, because it just there's no way to articulate yourself out of it. You can say, hey, this officer was lying, right? They're going to give the officer the benefit of the doubt first prior to you because everyone says that about law enforcement. Or you could say, hey, I made a mistake, but you couldn't stay clean, out, you couldn't operate a motor vehicle safely for 6 months through the hiring process. No, it's not going to fly. This is especially with the actual department that you're applying to while on your way to the interview. Yeah, that's a bad day. That's one of those ones where I can probably assume, and this is just a professional opinion here, uh, you'll be removed and disqualified from the hiring process. I don't think they'll move you forward with that, especially why they have Because if you challenge it and you fight it in court, their officer and that department has an open case against you, which they just will not move forward with, unfortunately. All right. This question is a big one. What happens if you fail the police academy? Can you go back and try again? If you are sponsored through the academy, which means the department is paying for you to go, that's really hot. And and you fail, the department's not going to pay for you to go again, right? You're going to be removed from employment, and it's going to be failure of probation. You're going to have to claim that you failed the academy, and it's very rare that another department will will put you through because they don't want to spend the time and the money on the hiring process for you, only for you to go to the academy again, something that you already didn't pass and fail. It would actually be much easier for a new hire or someone with no experience in law enforcement to get hired than someone who's been terminated in law enforcement or someone who's failed out in the academy or probationary phase, because that department only has to go off of your past experiences, and your past experiences show that you didn't handle or you weren't able to complete the requirements of an actual police officer. So no, I wouldn't say that. Although all hope is not lost, you could self-sponsor, prove that you can pass the police academy, articulate, hey, yes, I went through the academy. I was underprepared, or I couldn't grasp real quickly what they needed, and I didn't pass a written exam. Now, if you get kicked out for behavior, that's a whole nother, but I'm talking about you messed up on a scenario or you didn't pass a written exam. Then at that point in time, you could self-sponsor and go back. And I think I know a department would, at least a couple out there would be fine with that and say, okay, hey, yeah, you had an issue the first time, no issue. You passed it. That's all that matters. Let's keep moving forward and make sure that you're a hireable candidate and go from there. Okay. If I get an email saying I made the eligibility list or eligible to hire list, does that mean my background check should be next? This depends on the department, right? This depends on how that department runs their process. What this sounds like to me is a hiring pool agency. And a hiring pool agency, I try to refrain from them, right? I recommend to all the coaching members try to refrain from a hiring pool agency, and not a lot of departments will advertise that they're a hiring pool agency. You won't know until you apply. Maybe you'll do the written and physical test, and then they'll say, okay, hey, submit this packet. We'll put you on the list. And when your name comes up on the list, we'll contact you. That's a hiring pool agency. Another hiring pool agency is where they actually rank their candidates. So, hey, please apply. Okay, based on this, you're ranked number one out of this hiring sequence. We'll put you at the top of the list, and we'll contact you when we have a position available or when we're hiring for that position. Once again, I've seen them take up to 2 years to hire candidates or to even move forward with candidates. That's why I don't recommend a hiring pool agency. Yes, due to the quick turnaround with being short-staffed, I've seen departments or hiring pool agencies move faster, but still, I rather just not apply to a hiring pool agency. So based on what I'm reading on this question, it sounds like a hiring pool agency. If they said, hey, next step would be background, it could be you could hear from them next week, or you, excuse me, or you can hear from them next year. It's a tough one. Like I said, if you can figure out if they're a hiring pool agency first before applying, I would recommend identifying a different department you'd want to work for. If they're your dream agency and you're willing to wait around for them, you're good to go, right? Sit tight. It just depends. But it really is going to come down to how they move forward with the process and what your timing is for their next hiring sequence and where you fall in that hiring pool.
Hey, before I let you go, I did want to ask real quick, if you enjoy this, know that we go in and we answer all the questions on YouTube. And then if you have any enjoyment from the podcast, from the audio podcast, no matter where you're watching it, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other platforms, please leave us a review and like and share it. That's how we get out there, and then that shows me that this is the content that you all want to see, and then it's actually being beneficial. So if you have a comment and you want to ask a quick question, you can ask it over on YouTube. We try to answer all of them for as long as we can, as well as any of the extra gifts that we have for you. But additionally, you can go on to our website. It's Armagon CT, so ARMOGANCT.com. And up there we have live free trainings that we do as well occasionally. And you can keep checking there and see if that's something that you want to jump onto. I hope this all helps you. As I said before, stay safe and I'll see you next time.